it all contributes to I think it's a symptom of this whole thing too, this like rise in is dementia, Alzheimer's, and forgetting your memory and all these diseases. They're all symptoms of the very basic level of what we're not paying attention to.
Mm-hmm.
They're all
Exactly.
symptoms.
I know. I guess I think I
While
said
we're
it before we
individuals,
started.
we are also part of a hive.
Exactly. And the best way to be a part of that hive is to be like the full expression of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because what the hive needs is that specific contribution that only you can bring because you are so unique. And so then like if we recognize that as like a belief system that we all hold, and then you look through that lens at the way that everything most of society currently operates, it's like, well, no wonder, because it's like the opposite of that, you know what I mean? Like where everyone is trying to conform to being average and being normal, and that's like the opposite of embracing your unique path and like bringing your unique expression to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then like just the way that we live our lives is not conducive to any of these things that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And even although even like we were talking about earlier, like this dementia as like this end result of being a poor steward of like what it means to be human, like neglecting huge chunks of what it means to be human. So you're not like thinking about yourself as an energetic being. We don't generally, society doesn't like consider the energetics of each person and or how they contribute like collectively. And then your body is like this miraculous autonomously functioning thing, but we don't give it the support it needs to be able to do that. We try to take away all of its, we try to control it. Like we think that we cognitively can do a better job of healing than the body itself can do, so we neglect all that whole part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't like love ourselves and respect ourselves and honor ourselves enough to take care of ourselves, like really take care of ourselves.
It's true.
And like
It's a responsibility to take care of yourself.
mm-hmm. And
A
like
very big
that's
one.
not right, and not like basic hygiene, like to actually
Mm-hmm.
take care of your entire being. And because we neglect all historically at this juncture in humanity for the past few hundred years, we've been neglecting all of those pieces of what it means to be human. And we're like, we're here to work and to make money. Then we're all retiring into this state of disorientation and dysregulation and sensory like shutdown, basically.
Yes.
Where there's like this disconnect, in my opinion, this complete, it's like a complete disconnect between body and soul. Like your sensory perception is starting to fade away, so your body is not communicating the same way with your mind or with your spirit as it used to, because you've been neglecting it all this time. And your mind is the same way. Like it's forgetting things, it's not functioning the way that it is meant to, or the way that it can, because it's been neglected all of this time.
Mm-hmm.
And so then everything becomes disconnected. And so like you're like this disjointed, what do they call it in the food shows? Oh, a deconstructed human. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're a deconstructed being. It's like when they deconstruct a grilled cheese sandwich and it's like this tiny little crostini and like a cheese sauce. Like
Oh my gosh.
That's us in old age.
The cheese part is the brain, right? You know, cheese. Yeah.
Yes.
And then the
That's
crostini is
definitely
our
brain.
body. Okay.
Yeah. This is why I love you so much, Alex. Because there's only one person, and it is Alex, who could have taken my grilled cheese analogy.
Yeah, I was like, I got nothing.
The best part is I could have taken a picture of a deconstructed grilled cheese, and Alex would have sent me a message and been like, I understand how you're talking about the body and the mind here. I get it. But I think, I don't know. So I hope as opinions shift or ideas shift or approaches to life shift, that these things too will shift. I mean,
I hope so too.
But yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, it's hard to, because like I keep saying like in the past, but then we also say who the fuck knows, because none of us were there, and documentation is bullshit. So because like in my mind, the way I conceptualize it is like in the past there were like these communities, and like the elders were part of the communities, and they were these respected pillars in the community because of like the wisdom that they have from their lived experiences and their lives. I mean, I guess we don't know that necessarily to be true, but it's always felt to me, even before I shifted to the belief system that I have now, it's always felt to me like such a huge disservice to humanity as a whole to have all of our elders locked away in a medical institution.
Yeah, for so
dementia
long.
Or not.
Ooh. Yeah.
And
decades.
I mean, it's all right.
Sorry.
And so it's disjointing this whole, and it's this whole societal value system, right? The maiden, we love the fucking maiden. We sexualize the maiden. Like, don't even get me started on the creepy pedophilia that this whole society has. Like, the maiden aspect of life is like way up here. Everybody fucking loves a prepubescent female. Motherhood is like tired, things are hard, your life's gonna be bleak, there's some really, you know what I mean, you just gotta suffer through it. And then a crone is like, you're fucking nuts and you can't make any decisions and you must be in an institution because you're unsafe to live in a home by yourself. And in my opinion, from a spiritual perspective, maiden, mother, crone, like that is the opposite of how things, and like, and then when you're disjointing that on a societal level, you're the maiden who needs to learn from the crone doesn't have a crone there to learn from because they're in a nursing home.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's messing up the whole natural rhythm.
Okay, here's something to think about too. With what you're saying, when we only focus on the maiden, there's this idea that there has to be this fountain of youth. Like, you can never get old because they make motherhood so fucking scary that you don't even want to get to that point. And then they make older when you're old look like, oh, you just be discarded.
Right. You're dead.
Basically. We don't look at life as like, I want to live a long, fulfilling life until I'm 100. Who do you know says, I want to live to 100? I think that's an issue. I want to live till I'm 100. I think that'd be better badass. Like, damn, a century. What the hell? But there's a lot of people that won't say that. They don't say that. They say, I'm 29 forever. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And like, I don't know. Like
me, I just sent Dee a video. So this is just mostly because I'm a witch, I think. But I have, since I was a tiny child, I have been like dreaming of the day that I would have gray hair. Like dreaming. I met this girl one time in college, and she was like went gray in her teen years, and I was so jealous. She dyed the fuck out of her hair. But I just sent my hair has been like graying at a rapid pace, I would say. Like, I had like a few like silver hairs through it, but in the past like 6 months, it's exploded exponentially. I took
25 now instead of 10.
I took a video the other day in the mirror, and I'm like, Dee, look at this. Can you believe it? But like,
yeah,
that is rare, and most people dye their hair to cover that up. Like, fuck
Yeah.
that. That's wisdom. Like, that is wisdom growing out of your head. Like, that is like a rite of passage. You know what I mean? Like, that means like I've seen some shit and I've done some shit and I'm here to tell you about it. But no, let's diet and then try to make our
Those
faces
ties are
look
bad
younger.
for you. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that
I
shit's
think,
keeping in your brain. Probably.
and then you're constantly wishing you're something else. You know what I mean? So then instead of enjoying the motherhood phase,
Yeah.
you're wishing that you were skinnier or you were younger, or because all of our beauty standards come from a prepubescent female. So if you actually physically have a baby, like, there is no way your pelvis is going to look like something that you see on a screen, because it's not physically fucking possible. And if those people on a screen have had children, they're being altered. But like, a baby can't fit through your pelvis without it widening to a point where you no longer look like a straight line. So like, why is that the idealized body type? And then when that is the idealized body type, you're always going to be feeling like like there's something wrong with you, or you're not pretty, or you're not good enough, or you're not what. So you're always going to be wishing you were something else. And as long as you're wishing you were a different age, a different body, a different something, then you're not present in your reality, and all your power's taken away. Like, time is the one thing you can't get back. And here we all sit like wishing we were 11 again.
Well, it's like, it goes either way. Like, you either wish that you were like younger again, or like when you're younger, you wish you were older, or like, like, it's just like when and I think it's like a lot of people's like mindset too, like when they have kids, you're like, oh, I love when they're newborns, all this and that. Oh, I can't wait to, and then like they're a toddler and they're screaming, and you're like, I can't wait till they're 18 and I don't have to take care of them anymore. And then when they're 18, you're like, oh my God, I miss when they were 5.
Right.
Like, you can't, like, there's no satisfaction in like the now. And like, I do it all the time. I'll sit there, like, I could just be having a pleasantly great evening, and I'll be like, what do I have to do over the next 5 days? Like, what does that matter? Like, unless there's a very pressing need, otherwise, not 99% of the time, it doesn't matter. But I think too, like, back to you said about like, people don't want to live till they're 100. Like, people don't say like, I want to live till I'm 100. But like, I also think too, that's because like, I think like, if you look at it now, like, the quality of life till you're 100 is shit. But that's also because like, we are, back to the beginning of this conversation, chronically ill and chronically inflamed and chronically exposed to all of these terrible things from the time that we come out of the womb or in the womb. And so even by the time we reach, halfway to 100, you have all of these chronic ailments.
That's true.
And you're like, you can't even like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't, like, when you retire, like, people's like, when you retire, you're supposed to be able to like travel and like live. Like, the fact that you have to wait till you're fucking 65 to even do that anyway is like crazy. But like, how many people, once they actually get to that age, could actually physically do that? A lot of people can't. Like,
and when I worked in long-term care, when you said people say that they never want to live to 100, I said that all the time. I would wander through the halls screaming, please, dear God, shoot me before this happens.
Oh my gosh.
Like, when we first got together, I was like, there needs to be written, if you think this is going to be a long-term relationship, there needs to be written documentation that you will end my life. Because it's so miserable. Like, I would never, I want to take all of those people home with me and not have them live there. And I would never want to live there.
Fortunately for her, she found the number one plug puller. So
we're real good at
anybody who
end of life over, around these parts.
Especially anybody who like
the angels.
I have direct control over, not even like the patients I take care of, because I don't have control over that. Like, I'm just really like the middleman. But like, my parents, like, I tell them all this, they're like, don't let me, don't worry, I got you. Like,
but how, but like, I don't feel that way anymore.
Right.
But only because I can see my path to 100 not ending at a nursing home. Because I can I
mean, or if it is, the nursing home culture has changed so drastically by then it's like really just like a fucking party.
True.
You know?
But like because it doesn't seem like suffering. But like when you work in that environment all day long every day and you see how miserable all of those people are, like there's no way in hell that death could be worse than that. Like it's so impersonal and you're so like
everybody's just so mad.
And you're so detached from everything.
But that's like, but that's not even, I mean, and that's not even like just in like a nerd. I mean, that's everywhere. Like how many places do you go into like in a workplace? And people are like, I love it here. I love every minute that I come to work and I do my job. Like that's a rarity to find that anymore these days. Like I think that used to be the case when people worked trade jobs or, you know, ran family businesses that like they were proud of and like and now you're like just working for fucking God knows who.
But
Bill Gates and Elon Musk.
But that's like the culture. It's like if like sometimes it's hard now to communicate with people who we know who are still working in that setting because it's very apparent how annoying our perspective is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so then even if you are by some miracle able to have that perspective and then go to work, like if you are the person who's having this like alternative perspective that's not just complaining about how terrible everything is, like nobody likes you. So it's just like that's all you, like you said, like all you talk about is work after work and you go to sleep thinking like it's all about work because it's your identity. Then like within that identity, the theory is that you're supposed to not like your job. Like that's just like accepted.
True,
like
actually, that's an aspect of that. Yeah.
Right. So your identity is this job that you don't like. And so it's like, well, I'm not fulfilled, but it's because I have to work this job and I have to work this job to survive. So I'm just going to be here and be fucking miserable about it. And it's just this accepted reality. And it makes sense that you feel that way because you're literally ignoring everything inside of your body that's telling you, like, go, be free, do something else that's going to actually make us feel alive. So you really are miserable, but it's not just like, it's not just like, oh, this is how life is. And this is what everybody feels like. But because that's so accepted.
Accepted and like come to terms with, well, that's it. That's what it is. My parents were upset. I'm upset.
Right. And like the other day, like somebody asked me, like, they're like, how are you? Like I was at work, like, how are you? I'm like, I'm great. And like they literally stopped. Like it would stop them in their tracks.
Yeah.
And they said, what did you say? I said, I'm great. Like with enthusiasm.
I was gonna say that's the thing because I like
because people are like, I'm great, you know. Even great.
That, like, you know, it's like trained in your body. Like I can picture myself walking down the halls of the vet's home and people saying, "How are you?" and me being like, "Oh, just fucking thrilled to be here." When I really am because I love being on a dementia unit. But if I said that, everyone would be like, "She's a fucking annoying ass bitch." So I have like this like sarcastic comment that just comes out of my mouth as an automatic response to fit into the general culture of like.
And the normal response is like, oh, it's just another day, you know, another day of paradise. But I was like, you know, and I was like, genuinely, I was like, I'm great. They were like,
that's weird.
I'm sorry, what? You're great. You're at work and you're great. I'm like, yeah, I'm great. They're like, wow. I really hope you're able to just keep that attitude up. It's like, people don't even know how to respond to like, genuine like enthusiasm and like happiness, and like it's a very new concept for me, like to be able to even like, and I still feel like I find myself all the time getting like sucked back into like, oh, here I am again. And like, and you hear a conversation and then you're like, what's going on, what's happening, and then you find yourself, you're like back into that like bitching mode about everything, and that like nobody likes anybody, like, and like everybody loves to just like
social creatures. You know what I mean? Like being social is something that humans are dependent on,
right? But being but
when the social culture is negative, then it's not a benefit to us anymore. But we still
Our
want to be a
social
part of
culture
it.
is negative.
all the time. Like
It is a
until you go to like I don't know, maybe you can like, because like you just recently went to like a retreat where you met people that you've like known but you haven't actually met in person.
Met in
And
person,
like
yeah.
we just got back from Sedona, like from our one retreat that we did.
Yeah.
And like you literally feel like you're on a different planet in
Yeah.
those spaces
Yeah.
because you're surrounded by people who like don't have that negative mindset. And like even if they do, like it's okay and it's very valid, and you're like, but you like pull each other up and you support each other and you like find ways to work through it instead of like you all just sitting there in that negativity and being like, yeah, I know what that feels like. And instead you like pull people out of it. And then and otherwise it's like you're just like thinking like, this is how I'm going to change the world. These are all the things. This is how you can help me and I can help you, and like all these things. And it's like constant positive reinforcement over and over and over again. And you're in this space for 3 days straight and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then you leave it and you go back to like reality and you're like, what the fuck? Like, why?
Yes.
How are more people not like living like this? You know? And I'm sure you experienced that, like when you had that retreat, like you get into these spaces where you're finally around these people who like, they get you, they know what it feels like, they understand you, like they support you fully. And then like, but that's like rare. Like those types of interactions now are so rare. And like, even like Mia was saying, like there's people who like I'm would consider like very good close friends of mine that I've known for a very long time. Like when you start to make shifts or you start to pull back from certain things and then change your perspective, you start to feel like you don't even have that like same connection and like dynamic between those people anymore. Like even though you would be like, yeah, that's still my best friend, like I would do anything for that person, but like then you almost feel like you don't even like really like understand each other anymore, like on a like just on a basic level, because like your perspectives have like literally just become polar opposites now, versus like you used to bond over the negativity and how you hated everybody and everything, and now like you're like, my life is great and I do everything, and then like people are like, why, how, like what do you mean it's great? Like
A lot of our relationships are built upon that common negative bond, unfortunately. And when you start breaking it down, you're like, whoa,
it's that like
really
pain, it's like that well, it's like a trauma, it's a trauma bond. That's really trauma like bond. Yeah,
all of our relationships are built. And I think when you're accustomed to consistently looking at things through a negative lens, when people have a different perspective, it's like, oh my God, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And also like you're just bypassing everything. Like your life's not that fucking good. Like everything isn't like sunshiny all the time and everything isn't great all the time. So you're just like lying about it to pretend you're happy. Like I used to think that all the time. Like I used to watch people's videos on social media and be like what the fuck, actual fuck? Like you're clearly full of shit. No one has ever been this happy before. But
yeah.
But the happiness has nothing to do with only good things happening to you. It has to do with like trusting yourself to make it through whatever is thrown your way. And instead of looking at your life as these series of terrible things that have happened to you and like cringy memories or like embarrassing relationships you're in, looking at it as like, holy fuck, I'm a badass who navigated this and navigated this and navigated that. Like I can fucking handle anything. So why the hell would I be pissed off all the time? Like even if something goes wrong tomorrow, oh well, I'll figure it out. And so it's really like that's really the perspective of empowerment. And so it's not like it can come off as like, oh my God, everything's great and everything's happy. But I think that's like the superficial level. It's not like taking into account, like we were talking about earlier, like all the hard work that gets you to that level of trusting yourself. And then like actually, like we say like, I trust the universe is going to provide for me. But you're trusting the universe is going to provide for you, and also you're trusting yourself to
Yes.
follow your intuition. So like, I'm doing this thing, I don't really know how it's going to work out, but my intuition is telling me it's the right thing, and you trust that intuition more than you trust all the other bullshit. And so you're willing to allow the space for miracles to happen, more or less. But I think that without intention, it gets very divisive, like you said. Like, there's like a gap that's created between people with different perspectives. And so I think like that's something that I am like intrigued by and fascinated by and want to explore more and want to speak more about, is like bridging that gap and like being intentional about it. Because it's kind of like when people are like annoyed with middle schoolers, like you were saying earlier, like when your parents are like yelling at you and telling you that you're irresponsible, and then you realize that you're the same age as they were, and you don't have your shit together either. So what right did these parents have to like tell you that you didn't know what was going on? It's like losing that perspective. Like, I once was there, and this is how I got there. No shame for being there, but I love you so much that I think that you should come with me if you want to. And like that being the exchange, not like I am up here and I am a guru and I shall tell you the things. But like, hey, this is kind of what I've been doing. It like, you know, like finding a way to bridge that gap, because I think otherwise you just get really divisive. I don't know. For sure. Final thoughts? I just realized it's after 7. And you have a small child.
No. I got nothing.
You look zoned out.
Just thinking.
Yeah, this whole thing that we just now touched on, I mean, we're afraid to leave these relationships that we've built on things that when you start doing some work on yourself, you're like, whoa, what was this built on? Why do we keep rehashing the same memories? Are we making new memories? Are most of the memories based off of negative things or positive things? But most people are afraid to, I mean, one, they're not looking at it. And two, once they realize it, they're like, well, I'm still gonna do X, Y, and Z. I'm still gonna not change my habits. I'm too afraid to let go of what I know is best for myself.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I've learned is that worrying about who is like worrying about who is going to stay or who is going to go is detrimental to everyone. And instead, continuing to be truthful about who you are and what your perspective is, regardless of the people around you, cleans up your energy on the subject. And so then it gives, if you're standing in your new perspective confidently and securely, then it gives people a choice of whether or not they want to consider that as an idea or they want to keep the previous way of functioning. But that's a choice that they ultimately have to make.
Yes.
And being in your truth doesn't mean being condescending or being negative about where anyone else is. You don't have to prove that your new perspective is good or right or whatever, because I mean, what is that anyway? That's some fucking patriarchal bullshit. But by you just being your actual whole self, it will inspire other people to be their actual whole self, even if that's not in the same way that you went about it or with any of the same strategies that you used. And so, like, returning to that at the end of the, like, the goal is for everybody to be the fullest expression of their soul.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can't tell people to do that. You can't convince people to do that, especially because, like we said, it's not like really sexy at all, and there's a lot of hard stuff involved, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of like, god damn, I can't believe I said that or did that or pushed that agenda. And so, like, you have to want to do that. And I think when you're, as the person who might have grown or expanded or evolved, when you're unsure of that and you're like, I feel really bad about this place where I'm at now because it's in a different place and I don't know how to relate to you, then that makes the energetics of the whole situation wobbly. So as hard as it is, I think the most productive thing is to be the whole version of yourself in the most compassionate way you can be. Much easier said than done. Mm-hmm.
For sure.